A very good morning. Today I will be discussing one of the important topic in biomedical instrumentation, that is biopotentials and electrocardiogram. So first we define what is biopotential. So bioelectric potentials are ionic voltages produced as a result of the electrochemical activity of certain special types of cells. So particularly this is observed in the nerve cells, the skeletal muscle cells. When there is a movement of ions takes place across the cerebral membrane, this biopotential is going to generate. It is typically an ionic potential. So the typical examples of biopotentials are as follows: electrocardiogram, ECG, electroencephalogram, electroretinogram, and electroarcorogram. Similarly, there is few more biopotential which also exist, that is such as electrogastogram and others. So let us look into the how this biopotential are generated. So the biopotentials are generated in the three phases. First stage of the biopotential generation is called the polarization state or resting potential. Second stage called the depolarization, which is called the action potential stage, and third is called the repolarization, or it is called the after potential or returning back to the resting potential. So let us look a condition of a cell under the normal condition. The cell contains a fluid called the intracellular fluid, and a fluid outside the membrane is called the extracellular fluid. They typically, the ions which are present in the intracellular fluids are potassium, sodium, and chlorine, and similarly we will find the same ions on the outside, but the concentration of the potassium inside is going to be high, the concentration of the sodium outside is going to be high, and the large number of charged proteins which are negative are inside. So due to which when you see the membrane, the potential across the membrane, so we will find the more number of the sodium ions outside and less inside, due to which what happens, the cell seems to be more negative inside and more positive outside. If I am going to make a measurement of potential across the membrane by keeping an electrode inside and taking the reference outside, at that time I am going to record a negative potential which is approximately equal to minus 70 millivolts, and this, the condition of the cell is going to call the polarized cell, and the potential is going to call the resting potential, which is approximately minus 70 millivolts. But this condition will be same unless until it disturbs. Suppose if you stimulate this cell with a potential or a mechanical stimulation, there is a good number of the channels are going to open for the sodium across the membrane, and due to which the sodium start entering into the cell, and the movement is going to be much higher. The sodium ions are going to move at a higher rate into the cell. At the same time, the potassium ions start to move outside, but the movement of the potassium ion is not that much as compared to the sodium, due to which what happens, there is a large number of sodium ions start accumulated into the cell, due to which the cell becomes more positive inside and less and negative outside. If I make a measurement of the potential with reference to inside to the outside, I am going to get a positive potential of plus 20 millivolts, and this, the condition is going to call the depolarized cell, and the whole process of generating this potential is itself called the depolarization, and whatever the potential you are going to get is going to call the action potential. But this condition will not be same, and again if the stimulation no more persists, again the sodium start moving out from the inside to the outside, and that particular process is going to call the repolarization, by which again the cell is going to returns back to the same negative potential of minus 70 millivolts. That is what you call the resting potential. So let us, these are how the sodium channels and the potassium channels you can able to see, by which the sodium and potassium will move in and out of the cell. So this is how the movement of the ions leads to the generation of the action potential, and this is the outside of the cell, this is the inside of the cell, and you can also see how this action potential is propagated from one cell to the neighboring cells. So this is the typical waveform of the action potential, indicating the resting potential of minus 70 millivolts, and this is the depolarization state, this is the action potential which is approximately 20 to 30 millivolts, and this is the repolarization phase by which it returns back to the resting potential. So one of the example of the biopotential is electrocardiogram. The electrocardiogram is nothing but the display or the recording or the monitoring of the biopotential generated by the muscles of the heart, that is the myocardium. So to understand this generation, we should understand the electrical conduction system of the heart, which contains SA node, AV node, bundle branches and Purkinje fibers. So this is a representation of the ECG, but it doesn't have any value provided it doesn't have any nomenclature. So this is the typical pattern of an ECG waveform. It contains a P wave, QRS complex and the T wave. To understand this, we will look into this particular animation, which says how an impulse are generated from the SA node, propagated to the atrial musculature, then atria undergoes the contraction, then it reaches to the AV node after some delay, then it propagates to the bundle branches to the ventricular musculature, by which ventricles undergo the contraction and you will get a QRS complex. Then ventricles undergo the repolarization, you will get a T wave. Let us look a particular diagram, which is this is the how a normal ECG looks like, and these are the typical amplitudes, these are the typical durations, which have a very important diagnostic information. So this is, you can able to study a correlation between the electromechanical activities and that of the ECG. So when the SA node generate the impulse and they propagate to the atrial musculature, under that condition atrial depolarization takes place, you will get a P wave. After certain delay, so we will get the impulse reaches the AV node, then you will get that is PR segment. Without further delay, the impulsor reaches ventricular musculature and the ventricles undergo the contraction and you will get a QRS complex. Then ventricular undergo the depolarization state. At that time, you will get a T wave here. Then we will get back to the isoelectric point. So this is the diagram which shows a correlation between the ECG and that of the electrochemical activities of the heart. Now, in order to record the ECG, we need to understand the electrode placement. So the electrodes are the one which convert the ionic potential into the electrical potential. So rather than I explain the whole concept, let us see a video clipping that is going to explain the various steps in the recording of the placement of the electrodes as well as the recording of the ECG. So it may take few seconds to upload the video. Yes.
In this instruction, we will show you how to apply the electrodes for one of our resting ECGs, the EMS 2015, in order to achieve a good electrical signal and ensure a successful recording. The electrode greatly affects the transmission of signals from the skin. Therefore, check the expiry date on the package and ensure that the storage conditions stated on the electrode packaging have been adhered to. We recommend that Schiller electrodes are always used to ensure the quality of the signals.
The first step is skin preparation.
Skin preparation is essential for electrode adhesion and conduction. Good skin preparation is the secret of a successful recording. First, if there is any hair on the electrode skin areas, shave it to provide better electrode contact and help reduce painful removal of the electrodes. Clean the skin area with either alcohol or soap and water to remove skin oils. Please note that if the patient has sensitive skin, it is usually better to use soap and water to minimize skin irritation. After cleaning, let the skin dry thoroughly. We will show you the four most common electrode placements. These are standard, posterior leads, right precordial leads, and right precordial lead C4R. Standard leads. Place the electrodes as follows. Red R, right arm above the wrist. Yellow L, left arm above the wrist. Green F, left foot above the ankle. Black N, right foot above the ankle. C1 red, fourth intercostal space at the right sternal border. C2 yellow, fourth intercostal space at the left sternal border. C4 brown, in the fifth intercostal space in the mid-clavicular line. C6 purple, mid-axillary line at the same height as C4 and C5. C3 green, between positions C2 and C4. C5 black, on the anterior axillary line at the same height as C4.
Connecting the electrodes
After the
to the
electrodes
system.
have been placed on the patient, connect the patient cable leads to the electrodes. Check the ECG signal on the screen. Ensure that a good signal is displayed.
So this is what a standard method of
Posterior leads.
recording the ECG. We will go back to our slides now. So we have seen how the ECG is recorded. So let us look into the importance of ECG measurement. So particularly it will be very helpful to study the normal heart activity, how the heart is working, and very importantly to diagnose many types of arrhythmias, particularly bradycardia, tachycardia, sinus arrhythmia, conduction blocks, atrial and ventricular fibrillations, premature atrial and ventricular contractions. Under all these conditions, these are all a typical the ECG will not be the ECG pattern will not be same as that of the normal. So I will show a few of the diagrams, the waveforms, in which you can able to understand what is the difference between the normal heartbeat and that of the arrhythmias. So this is the typical normal heartbeat, which is going to show the P wave, QRS and the T wave, and this is what is called as the fast heartbeat, which is called the tachycardia. You can see the number of beats in the same duration is more, and this is the slow heartbeat, where you can see the number of beats are going to be less, so when compared to that of the normal. And this is an irregular heartbeat, where you can see the heart is contracting and relaxing in an abnormal way. This is another pattern. You can see this is the ventricular fibrillation, a condition in which there is asynchronous contraction of the ventricular musculature, due to which the ECG is going to be very, very random. And this is the trace of a normal heart rhythm, and if you compare, there are a lot of disturbance, and this is going to be very fatal condition. So if the ventricular fibrillation persists for 2 to 3 minutes, it may lead to a fatal condition. Using a defibrillator, you can able to overcome this particular situation. So today we have understood how the biopotentials are generated, and how we can able to record the ECG. Thank you.